When most people think about sweet fruits and diabetes, they immediately assume they need to avoid them completely. After all, sugar is the enemy, right? That's what many seniors are told. Avoid sweet things. Avoid sugar. Avoid fruit, especially if it tastes sweet, but the truth is far more nuanced. Not all sweet fruits are dangerous for people with diabetes. In fact, some of them, yes, even surprisingly sweet ones, can actually help stabilize blood sugar, fight inflammation, and even improve insulin sensitivity. This may sound hard to believe at first, especially if you've spent years fearing fruit because of its natural sugars. But the key difference lies in how the sugar in fruit behaves once it enters your body. Unlike processed sugar in cakes or soda, the natural sugar found in whole fruits comes packaged with fiber, water, antioxidants, vitamins, and phytochemicals that all work together to slow the release of sugar into your bloodstream. It's not about the sweetness, it's about what comes with it. Let's talk about one of the most underrated yet shockingly effective fruits for people trying to manage diabetes: berries. Now, you might be thinking, okay, berries aren't really that sweet. But have you ever tasted a fully ripe blueberry or a juicy black raspberry on a summer day? They're sweet, not candy sweet, but definitely sweet enough to feel like a treat. And yet, despite that sweetness, they're one of the most powerful fruits for blood sugar control. Take blueberries, for example. In study after study, blueberries have been shown to improve insulin sensitivity. One large clinical trial published in the Journal of Nutrition found that adults with insulin resistance who consumed just 2 cups of blueberries daily for 6 weeks had significantly better blood sugar control than those who didn't. That's a big deal. But why do they work? Secret is in their color. The deep, rich blue and purple shades in blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, and even strawberries come from a powerful class of plant compounds called anthocyanins. These natural pigments don't just make the fruit look pretty, they reduce inflammation, improve insulin sensitivity, and help your body absorb sugar more slowly. They also improve the health of your blood vessels, reduce oxidative stress, and protect your pancreas, the organ responsible for insulin production. But here's where it gets even more surprising. Another fruit that most people assume is off-limits for diabetics is the apple. That's right, good old apples. They're sweet, they're crunchy, and they've been demonized by some low-carb diets. But apples, especially the tart ones like Granny Smith or even sweet varieties like Fuji, can be a diabetic's best friend when eaten correctly. Why? Fiber. A medium-sized apple contains about 4 grams of fiber, much of which is in the form of pectina type of soluble fiber that slows digestion and helps blunt the rise in blood sugar after a meal. That means if you eat an apple along with a meal, your blood sugar will rise more slowly and steadily, rather than spiking sharply. And the skin of the apple, that's where a lot of the magic happens. It's packed with polyphenols, plant compounds that reduce oxidative stress and inflammation, which are major contributors to insulin resistance. Now imagine this. You're over 60. You're managing your blood sugar every day, checking labels, counting carbs, avoiding sweet things. But one afternoon, you're feeling tired. You're craving something sweet, something that doesn't feel like medicine. You slice a crisp apple, maybe pair it with a tablespoon of peanut butter, and sit outside in the sunlight. That moment of pleasure, of calm, is also helping your body stabilize its blood sugar. That's the kind of healing most medications can't provide. It's not about avoiding fruit. It's about choosing wisely and eating mindfully. Now, let's go back to berries for a moment. Beyond blueberries, there's another berry that packs an even more powerful punch: blackberries. High in fiber, low in net carbs, and bursting with flavor, blackberries contain nearly 8 grams of fiber per cup. That's more than many vegetables. And because fiber slows down how quickly sugar enters your blood, blackberries are like nature's slow-release energy snack. You can toss a few into a morning bowl of oats. Mix them into plain Greek yogurt, or just eat them as they are. No fancy recipes, no processing, just real food. Doing real work in your body. But here's something else most people don't realize. The glycemic index matters. The glycemic index, or GI, is a measure of how quickly a food raises your blood sugar. Low GI foods are better for people with diabetes because they don't cause sharp spikes. Berries and apples both have low glycemic index scores. Blueberries and strawberries have GI values around 25 to 40, and apples usually hover around 36 to 40. For context, white bread has a GI of around 70. So yes, even though these fruits taste sweet, they act differently in your body than candy or soda. Instead of flooding your bloodstream with sugar, they release it gently and slowly like a soft rain instead of a flood. And the benefits don't stop at blood sugar. Berries and apples also support your gut health, which is increasingly being recognized as a crucial part of metabolic health. Your gut bacteria help regulate how your body absorbs sugar, how your immune system responds to inflammation, and how well your insulin works. Fiber-rich fruits like berries and apples feed those good bacteria, making your whole system run better. Here's something else to consider. Diabetes isn't just about food. It's about stress, sleep, movement, and mindset. When you deprive yourself of every little pleasure because you're afraid of spikes, you add stress. And stress raises cortisol. And cortisol raises blood sugar. So allowing yourself to enjoy a naturally sweet fruit, especially one that actually helps your body, can reduce your stress and support better long-term control. That's why it's so important to stop labeling fruits as bad just because they're sweet. Instead, learn to see them as tools that can help you manage your condition, feel more energized, and reconnect with food as nourishment, not punishment. Let's also be clear, none of this means you can eat unlimited fruit. Moderation matters. Portion size matters. But when you compare a handful of blackberries or a crisp apple to a sugary cookie or juice box, the difference is dramatic. One supports your health. The other undermines it. So the next time someone tells you to cut out all fruit if you have diabetes, take a step back and think. Ask yourself, what does the evidence say? What does your body say? Because chances are, small serving of the right kind of sweet fruit could be exactly what you need. Even doctors are beginning to acknowledge this. Nutrition guidelines from major diabetes associations now state that whole fruits, especially low glycemic ones like berries and apples, are not only safe, they're recommended. Still, many seniors are living in fear of fruit, fear of pleasure in food. And it doesn't have to be that way. It starts with small steps, swapping dessert with a bowl of berries, slicing up an apple instead of reaching for crackers, adding fruit to breakfast instead of skipping it altogether. These changes may seem minor, but they create a ripple effect. They improve your mood, your digestion, your insulin function, and, eventually, your long-term health. You don't need to turn your life upside down to see results. You just need to choose better, not less. And that's the surprising truth. So we've talked about berries and apples too. Sweet fruits that surprise most people with their benefits for blood sugar control. But let's take the conversation a little deeper, because there's something powerful about understanding why these fruits help. When you know the science and how it works inside your body, you stop fearing food and start using it as a tool for healing. Let's return to berries for a moment, because their benefits go far beyond sweetness. Berries are rich in something called polyphenols. These natural compounds don't just give the fruit its color and taste. They actively support the way your body processes sugar. They help your cells respond better to insulin, which means your body doesn't have to produce as much to do the job. That matters, especially if you're dealing with insulin resistance. Think of insulin like a key that unlocks your cells too. Allow sugar in for energy. In diabetes, that key starts to lose its strength. The locks become rusty. But polyphenols found abundantly in berries help to oil those locks. They make the process smoother, more efficient. So instead of sugar lingering in your bloodstream causing damage, it gets absorbed where it belongs. Now let's shift the focus to apples again, because it's not just the fiber that helps. Apples are packed with something called quercetin. It's a flavonoid type of antioxidant. It has anti-inflammatory, antiviral, and even anti-cancer properties. But more importantly for you, it helps protect the beta cells in your pancreas, the very cells that produce insulin. If those cells are damaged over time, insulin production drops, and managing diabetes becomes harder. So by eating something as simple as an apple, especially with the skin, you're actually helping preserve the very system that controls your blood sugar. It's also worth mentioning that apples and berries are easy to digest and don't lead to the same energy crash that processed sweets do. If you've ever eaten a donut and then felt tired an hour later, you've experienced a sugar crash. But when you eat something like berries or an apple, the fiber slows the sugar's release, giving you steady energy instead of a spike and a crash. This is critical for seniors, especially because blood sugar fluctuations can affect mood, brain function, and even balance. Stable sugar levels mean better focus, fewer headaches, more stable energy, and even better sleep. Now let's paint a picture. You wake up in the morning, you feel groggy. Maybe your blood sugar was a little high overnight. Instead of skipping breakfast or grabbing a processed granola bar, you put together a simple bowl, maybe some Greek yogurt, unsweetened, a small handful of blueberries and blackberries, a few walnut pieces, and a sprinkle of cinnamon. That one bowl, full of simple whole foods, gives you fiber, protein, healthy fats, and anti-inflammatory nutrients. It satisfies your sweet craving, it supports your digestion, and most importantly, it doesn't spike your blood sugar. In fact, it may even help reduce it. This is how fruit can fit into your daily rhythm, not as a fear, but as a feature. And this is just with 2 fruits. Imagine what happens when you build a whole day of eating with that same intention. Choosing fruits with a low glycemic index, combining them with proteins or healthy fats, and using them in place of empty, sugary foods. Let's talk about snack time. Say it's the afternoon and you're feeling that slump. Instead of a packaged cookie, what if you sliced half an apple and dipped it in a little almond butter? You get crunch, sweetness, satisfaction, and better blood sugar control. You stay full longer and you don't feel guilty afterward. For those who deal with nighttime blood sugar spikes, or even dawn phenomenon, where blood sugar rises early. In the morning, before waking, having a small serving of berries before bed with a bit of protein, like cottage cheese or a few almonds, can help stabilize levels overnight. It's a small change with a big payoff. And let's not forget hydration. Often, we crave sugar because we're dehydrated. Berries and apples both have high water content. They help you stay hydrated, which also supports kidney health. Are huge concern for people with diabetes. Now, let's address a common concern. But what about fruit sugar? Isn't fructose still sugar? Yes, fruit contains fructose. But again, context matters. Fructose in a whole apple, surrounded by fiber and antioxidants, behaves very differently than fructose in soda or candy. When it comes in its natural form inside, your body digests it slowly and processes it with help from fiber. It's when fructose is separated, concentrated, and added into processed foods that it becomes harmful. So again, it's not just what you eat. It's how it's packaged by nature. Let's go even further. Did you know that apples and berries can support weight loss too? Not because they're magic, but because they help you stay full. The fiber expands in your stomach, sending signals to your brain that say, "I'm satisfied." This reduces the likelihood of overeating or reaching for unhealthy snacks later. And for seniors, where metabolism slows down and appetite may fluctuate, These natural whole fruits are a perfect fit. They're gentle on digestion. They help with regularity, and they support nutrient absorption in the gut. In fact, the fiber from these fruits feeds the good bacteria in your gut, which is now considered one of the most important parts of immune and metabolic health. Now, let's talk about the emotional side of eating. Food isn't just about nutrients, it's about comfort, memories, and joy. And for people managing diabetes, food can often feel like the enemy. You're told, don't eat this, watch out for that, no sugar, no carbs, no pleasure. But that mindset leads to stress. And chronic stress raises cortisol, which raises blood sugar. So ironically, the fear of food can sometimes do more harm than the food itself. By reintroducing safe, natural, sweet foods like berries and apples fruits that are proven to be beneficial, you not only nourish your body, but also reduce emotional stress. You feel more in control. You feel more normal. You enjoy eating again. That joy leads to consistency. And consistency is what builds long-term health. Let's also acknowledge this: not everyone has access to fresh organic fruit all the time, and that's okay. Frozen berries are just as good, sometimes better. They're picked at peak ripeness and flash frozen to preserve nutrients. Just make sure they don't have added sugar. You can buy a big bag and scoop out what you need each day. Same goes for apples. Look for fresh, firm ones, but also remember that in a pinch, unsweetened applesauce with no added sugar can be used creatively in recipes. You can mix it into oatmeal or use it in place of sugar in baking. It's all about balance and small upgrades. If you're on medication for diabetes, these fruits can actually work alongside your treatment. By stabilizing your blood sugar naturally, they can reduce the need for sharp dosage increases over time. Of course, always talk to your doctor or dietitian before making big changes, but know that real, whole food is rarely the problem, it's usually part of the solution. And finally, remember this: your taste buds adapt. If you've been eating processed sweets for years, berries and apples might not taste very sweet at first. But over time, just a few weeks, really your tongue will recalibrate. You'll start to taste the real sweetness in food again. And that's a beautiful thing. Because it means you're healing not just your blood sugar, but your relationship with food itself. So whether it's a handful of blueberries in the morning, a slice of apple in the afternoon, or a bowl of mixed berries as dessert, these surprisingly sweet fruits aren't your enemy. They're your allies, and they're ready to help you take back control, one bite at a time. We've now explored how apples and berries, despite being sweet, can actually support people with diabetes by reducing blood sugar spikes, improving insulin sensitivity, and feeding the good bacteria in the gut. But how can you actually use these fruits in your daily life? Let's talk about real-life applications, meal ideas, timing, combinations, and even recipes. Because knowing something is good is one thing. Knowing how to use it effectively is where change begins. Let's start with breakfast, because for most people, especially seniors, this is the most important time of the day for blood sugar stability. After a full night of fasting, your body is more sensitive to food. What you eat in the morning sets the tone for the rest of your day. If you start with something high in processed carbs or sugar, you'll likely see a quick spike in glucose, followed by a crash in energy and possibly more cravings later. But what if your breakfast included something sweet and diabetic-friendly? Imagine this. You take a half cup of unsweetened Greek yogurt, rich in protein and probiotics. You add in a quarter cup of fresh blueberries, a quarter cup of chopped green apple, a sprinkle of cinnamon, and a tablespoon of crushed walnuts. You've just created a bowl that's balanced protein, fiber, healthy fats, and natural sugar that your body can handle. This kind of meal helps stabilize your glucose, supports digestion, and satisfies your sweet tooth without guilt. Now let's say you prefer something warmer. No problem. You could prepare a bowl of steel-cut oats with chopped apple slices, a pinch of cinnamon, and a few blackberries. Don't add sugar. Let the fruit do the sweetening. The oats give you long-lasting energy. The fruit adds antioxidants. And the cinnamon. That's a bonus that's been shown to help lower blood sugar in small amounts. A warm breakfast like this is comforting and healing. For lunch, fruit doesn't have to be the star, but it can play a strong supporting role. Let's say you have a spinach salad with grilled chicken or boiled egg. Add in a few thin apple slices for crunch, a handful of walnuts for fat, and a few berries for a pop of sweetness. Top with olive oil and a splash of lemon juice. This isn't just a salad. It's a metabolic support system. It's low on the glycemic index, high in fiber, packed with nutrients and incredibly satisfying. Now what about snacks? This is where many seniors slip up. The blood sugar dips, the hunger hits, and the closest thing is often a cracker, a biscuit, or something from a package. But if you prepare ahead, fruits like apples and berries can become your go-to snack without hurting. Your numbers: you can slice an apple in the morning and keep it in a small container with lemon juice to prevent browning. Then, when the afternoon hunger kicks in, you can pair it with a tablespoon of peanut butter or a piece of string cheese. It's sweet, salty, creamy, and crunchy, all the sensations you want in a snack, and your blood sugar will thank you. Or, make a simple berry mix. Take frozen blueberries and raspberries, mix them with a little plain yogurt, and freeze the mixture in small portions. When you feel a sweet craving, it's right there, cool, satisfying, and supportive of your health. Goals. Let's talk about dinner. While fruit isn't usually a big part of dinner, you can still make it work. For example, roast vegetables like Brussels sprouts, sweet potatoes, and carrots with olive oil. Near the end of cooking, toss in a handful of diced apple. It caramelizes slightly, adding natural sweetness and depth without needing sugar or syrup. Or, you could use berries to create a light sauce for grilled salmon or chicken. Just simmer blueberries in a saucepan with lemon zest and a little garlic. It becomes a savory sweet glaze that's low in sugar but rich in flavor. And yes, even dessert is possible. If you've eaten well throughout the day and your blood sugar is stable, you can enjoy a small bowl of baked apple slices with cinnamon, nutmeg, and chopped almonds. No sugar added, just natural sweetness from the fruit. You can add a dollop of Greek yogurt or a spoonful of whipped coconut cream if you like. This is dessert with purpose. The key is to think of apples and berries not as forbidden foods, but as ingredients that work for your body, not against it. Now let's look at some of the myths and mistakes people make. One common myth is that fruit is just sugar. But that's not true when it comes to whole fruits. The sugar in a soda is absorbed almost instantly into your blood. But the sugar in a berry or an apple is slowed down by fiber. That's why the body responds differently. The glycemic index for an apple is about 36. A candy bar, around 70 or more. Same sweetness on the tongue, but completely different effect. On the body, another myth is that fruit spikes your insulin. While eating large amounts of sugary fruit juices or dried fruit can raise insulin quickly, eating moderate amounts of whole fruit, like apples or berries, has actually been shown to improve insulin sensitivity over time. That means your body uses insulin more efficiently, which is the goal for anyone managing blood sugar. There's also confusion around fruit juice. Even if it's labeled 100% juice, most juices are stripped of their fiber and concentrated in sugar. A cup of apple juice has about 24 grams of sugar and almost no fiber. But a whole apple, only around 19 grams of sugar and over 4 grams of fiber. That difference makes a huge impact. So if you're trying to lower blood sugar and still want to enjoy sweetness, skip the juice and go for the whole fruit. What about dried fruit? This is where people need to be careful. Dried fruits like raisins, cranberries, or dates are very concentrated in sugar and calories. Just a few pieces can raise your blood sugar significantly. If you want to include dried fruit, do so in very small amounts, like a teaspoon in a salad or a few pieces mixed into nuts, but don't snack on them freely. Stick to fresh or frozen berries and apples for better blood sugar balance. Now, let's talk about frequency. How often can someone with diabetes eat these fruits? That depends on the individual, their activity level, and how their body responds. But in general, most people with type 2 diabetes can safely eat 1 to 2 servings of fruit per day, especially when paired with a source of fat or protein. The pairing helps slow down digestion and reduce spikes. So yes, you can have an apple in the morning and berries in the evening, or vice versa. The important thing is to monitor how your body responds. If you wear a glucose monitor, you can see the effect within an hour or two after eating. If not, pay attention to how you feel. Are you tired, dizzy, or unusually hungry? After eating fruit alone, try pairing it next time. Let's also explore cultural habits. In many parts of the world, fruit is eaten as part of a larger meal, not on its own. In Mediterranean diets, apples or berries are added to grain salads or served alongside cheese or yogurt. In East Asian traditions, fruit is often eaten after meals to help with digestion. These habits reflect centuries of wisdom about balance, moderation, and combining foods for better health. And that's really the key. Fruit is not the villain. Overeating is the problem. Processed sugar is the problem. But fruit, in its whole natural state, is your ally. What about frozen versus fresh? We touched on this earlier, but it's worth repeating. Frozen berries are just as nutritious as fresh, and they're often more affordable. You can thaw a small amount in the fridge overnight and use them in yogurt, oatmeal, or smoothies. Just check the label to ensure there's no added sugar. If you can afford organic, it's great especially for berries, which can sometimes carry pesticide residue. But don't stress if organic isn't an option. Washing your fruit well and choosing what's accessible to you is far more important than chasing perfection. Now, what if you're someone who doesn't like fruit much? That's okay too. Taste buds change over time, especially as we age. But don't give up after one try. Sometimes you just haven't had the fruit prepared the right way. A cold, mealy apple from a fridge won't inspire anyone, but a crisp apple sliced thin and sprinkled with cinnamon might become your new favorite. Likewise, bland berries on their own may not be exciting, but when mixed with a little vanilla extract, Greek yogurt, and chopped almonds, they become something special. And finally, remember that food is not just about rules. It's about experience. It's about joy. It's about connecting to your body and choosing what supports you. You don't need to follow a perfect plan. You just need to make small, consistent choices that serve your goals. Apples and berries are surprisingly sweet fruits. And they're surprisingly powerful, too. They've been quietly helping people manage diabetes for decades. And they can help you, too, one meal at a time. Now that we've explored the science, the benefits, and the ways you can include apples and berries in your daily meals, it's time to bring everything together into a real, sustainable way of living. Because it's one thing to know what helps on, another to make it part of your routine every day without stress or confusion. Let's imagine a real person, someone just like you. Maybe they're 68 years old, recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. They've been overwhelmed by all the do's and don'ts. Don't eat sugar, don't eat fruit, don't eat bread, don't eat rice. So much restriction. It starts to feel like every bite is a mistake. But one day they learn that not all fruits are dangerous. They read about apples and berries. They learn how fiber works. They start to understand the difference between natural sugars and added sugars. And slowly, things begin to change. Breakfast becomes a bowl of oats with cinnamon, chia seeds, and blueberries. Lunch becomes a spinach salad with chicken, walnuts, and apple slices. Snacks are no longer cookies, but crisp apple with almond butter. Dessert is a small bowl of frozen raspberries mixed with Greek yogurt. That person isn't suffering. They're enjoying. They feel better. Their energy improves. Their blood sugar levels stabilize. And most importantly, their fear around food begins to disappear. This is what happens when knowledge is put into action. When you shift from fearing fruit to using it wisely. Let's talk about timing. Many people ask, when is the best time to eat sweet fruit if you have diabetes? The answer depends on how your body responds. But generally, pairing fruit with a meal or right after eating a protein helps blunt any blood sugar spike. For example, having berries with your breakfast or apple slices after lunch will be easier on your body than eating fruit alone on an empty stomach. Another tip is to eat slowly. Chew your food well. Give your body time to respond. Fast eating often leads to higher sugar spikes because your body doesn't get the chance to send signals to your brain in time. Slow, mindful eating allows your digestion to stay in balance, and fruit, with its natural texture, encourages you to eat more thoughtfully. Portion control matters too. No one is saying eat 5 apples a day. That would be too much sugar and fiber, even though it's natural. Instead, aim for balance. 1 medium apple or half a cup of berries is usually a perfect serving. If you're pairing it with a protein, you might be able to enjoy slightly more. But always listen to your body and check your glucose if needed. Now let's dive into a simple weekly plan, just to show how easy it can be to make apples and berries part of your life without overwhelming your routine. On Monday, start the morning with plain Greek yogurt, blueberries, and flax seeds. For a snack, have sliced apple with a few almonds. On Tuesday, enjoy a veggie salad with grilled chicken and diced apples. In the evening, have a small bowl of frozen mixed berries and cottage cheese. On Wednesday, maybe bake a few apple slices, with cinnamon for dessert. On Thursday, stir berries into your oatmeal or whole grain cereal. On Friday, eat a green salad topped with walnuts and a few berries for color and sweetness. On Saturday, make a smoothie with frozen blueberries, spinach, and unsweetened almond milk. And on Sunday, treat yourself to a small apple baked in the oven with just a sprinkle of nutmeg and a spoonful of plain yogurt on top. None of this requires a special diet. Just basic, whole food. Easily available. No stress. No extremes. And you don't need to be perfect. If you skip a day or eat something off plan, that's okay. What matters is the pattern you build over time. Fruit is only a threat when misunderstood. When you know how to use it, it becomes part of the solution. Some seniors worry that it's too late to make changes, that their diabetes has gone too far. But here's something inspiring. Research shows that improvements in diet, especially increased fiber from fruits and vegetables, can make a noticeable difference within just weeks. Better digestion, better energy, reduced sugar cravings, even lower fasting glucose levels. One study showed that adults with type 2 diabetes who ate berries daily had improved insulin sensitivity in just 6 weeks. That means your body started responding better to insulin just by eating fruit. That's powerful. And it shows how your body is always trying to heal. It just needs the right tools. Let's talk about budget. You don't need expensive superfoods. Frozen berries are budget-friendly and last a long time. Apples are one of the most affordable fruits in almost every country. You don't need exotic ingredients. You need consistency. Even if your local store only has one kind of apple or one kind of berry, that's enough. It's not about variety. It's about quality habits. Small steps add up. You don't have to prepare fancy meals. A bowl of yogurt with berries takes 2 minutes. Slicing an apple takes 30 seconds. Now, what about combining fruit with medication? If you're on insulin or pills, it's important to track how fruit affects your body. But in most cases, whole fruit supports your medication. It's not a replacement, but it helps you require less over time. Some people who improved their diet even saw their doctors reduce their medication dosages, not because they stopped eating sweet things, but because they started eating the right ones. Another question many people ask is about exercise. Should you eat fruit before or after working out? Well, if you take a walk or do gentle stretching after meals, that can help lower blood sugar naturally. In fact, a 15-minute walk after a meal has been shown to reduce sugar spikes significantly. And eating a small fruit snack like apple slices or berries with a few nuts can give you steady energy before a light walk or workout. So again, we see how fruit fits naturally into a healthy routine, not as a cheat food, but as part of the plan. And here's a powerful idea. What if you replaced just one processed snack each day with a piece of fruit? One swap every day. That could mean 30 to 50 fewer grams of added sugar per week. That's over 2,000 grams a year. Nearly 5 pounds of sugar avoided just by changing one thing over a year. That adds up to lower blood pressure, better cholesterol, improved blood sugar, and a better mood. And that's not just data. That's quality of life. That's more energy to spend time with family, more mental clarity, better sleep, fewer complications. That's real freedom. Let's close with this. There are no perfect foods, but there are better choices. And sometimes, those choices are surprisingly sweet. Apples and berries, two fruits that many people are told to avoid, can actually help you manage your diabetes. Support your health and enjoy your meals. The sweetness is real, but so are the benefits. So don't fear the fruit. Understand it. Use it and let it support you. Because you deserve to eat food that heals. You deserve meals that bring joy. And you deserve to live a life that isn't ruled by fear, but guided by knowledge and full of flavor.